Pain changes people. It shapes them, molds them, and sometimes it builds walls around them so high that even love struggles to climb over. See, when someone has been hurt deeply, when they've given their heart away and had it shattered, they don't just bounce back like nothing happened. They learn. And what they learn most is how to protect themselves. Some folks don't mean to push you away, but they do it anyway because somewhere in their past they let someone in too close and it costs them. So now they've convinced themselves that the best way to survive is to keep their guard up, to hold back, to never let anyone get too deep inside their heart again. It's not that they don't feel, it's not that they don't care, it's that caring too much has cost them before, and they're afraid of paying that price again. Think about a time when you touched something hot. The moment it burned you, your body reacted. Your reflex was to pull back, to protect yourself, to make sure you never made that mistake again. That's exactly how the heart works too. When people experience pain, especially emotional pain, they develop instincts to avoid anything that might bring that same hurt again. Some people protect themselves by keeping their distance. They love you, but they don't always show it. They care, but they don't always say it. They want to be close, but something inside of them whispers, what if this ends like last time? So instead of risking it, they keep a safe space between you and their heart. Others protect themselves by pretending they don't care. They act tough, they act cold, they act like nothing bothers them, but deep down they feel everything. They just don't know how to let themselves be vulnerable again. They've convinced themselves that emotions make them weak, when in reality, their fear of getting hurt again is what keeps them trapped. And then there are those who protect themselves by leaving before they get left. They walk away from love before it can disappoint them. They assume the worst before the worst can happen. They sabotage good things because bad things have happened to them before, and they'd rather be in control of their own heartbreak than be blindsided by it again. But here's the thing about protecting yourself from pain. It also protects you from love, from healing, from growth. When you build walls to keep hurt out, you also keep joy out. When you shield yourself from disappointment, you also block yourself from connection. The very thing you're trying to avoid ends up being the reason you feel so alone. But people don't always see it that way. They think they're keeping themselves safe when really they're just keeping themselves stuck. They think they're avoiding heartbreak when really they're avoiding the very thing that could make them whole again. See, pain teaches you to be cautious, but if you're not careful, it also teaches you to be closed off. And that's the hardest part, because once someone has learned to protect themselves from pain, it's hard to unlearn it. It takes patience, it takes trust, it takes someone who is willing to show them that not everyone will hurt them the way they were hurt before. But even then, even when love is real, even when someone proves they're different, the scars from the past whisper, be careful. Don't let them in. You remember what happened last time. That's why some people love from a distance. That's why some people never say how they really feel. That's why some people seem so strong on the outside but are carrying wounds on the inside that you'll never see. They're not cold. They're not heartless. They're just protecting themselves the only way they know how. Not everyone will tell you what they're feeling. Not everyone will say, hey, I need you right now. Some people are hurting in silence, waiting for someone, anyone, to notice. They won't ask for help, they won't cry for attention, but deep down, they're hoping someone sees past their smile, past their I'm fine, past the walls they've built to hide their pain. See, we live in a world where people assume that if someone isn't saying anything, they must be okay. If they're still showing up, still laughing, still getting through the day, then everything must be fine. But just because someone is functioning doesn't mean they're okay. Some of the strongest people you know, the ones who never complain, the ones who always check on everyone else, are the same people crying themselves to sleep at night, wondering if anyone will ever check on them. Some folks are waiting for you to notice that their energy isn't the same, that their laugh isn't as real as it used to be, that their responses are shorter, their eyes don't shine the way they once did. And even though they're still here, something about them feels distant. They're hoping that someone will take a second to say, hey, I see you, I feel you, I'm here for you. The truth is, some people have been let down so many times that they don't even know how to ask for what they need anymore. They've been ignored, brushed off, or told they were being too sensitive one too many times. So now they just suffer in silence. They've convinced themselves that their pain isn't important, that nobody really cares, and that it's easier to keep it all inside than risk being dismissed again. They won't say, I feel alone. They'll just stop reaching out. They won't say, I need help. They'll just start pulling away. They won't say, I'm struggling. They'll just start isolating themselves, hoping someone will notice before they completely disappear. And the sad part is most people won't notice, not because they don't care, but because they assume everything is fine. Because the world has trained us to believe that if someone isn't outwardly falling apart, they must be okay. But the reality is some of the deepest pain is silent. Some of the most broken hearts are the ones that don't make a sound. Some of the people who need love the most are the ones who have mastered the art of acting like they don't need anything at all. That's why it's so important to pay attention, to listen to what isn't being said, to check in on the ones who always seem strong, because strength doesn't mean they are struggling. To ask, are you okay, and mean it, because sometimes that's all it takes for someone to finally open up. Some people are waiting for you to notice that they've been showing up for everyone else but themselves, that they've been carrying burdens that are too heavy and they just need someone to take a little weight off their shoulders, that they've been running on empty, and a simple, I see you, I appreciate you, you matter, could make all the difference. But the thing about people who suffer in silence is they won't tell you they're waiting. They won't tell you that they're hoping someone notices. They won't say, please see me. They'll just keep holding it in, carrying their pain alone until one day they can't anymore. People don't just want words. They don't just want promises. They want effort. They want to see that you care, not just hear about it. They want to feel that they matter, not just be told that they do, because talk is easy. Anybody can say, I'm here for you, but not everybody shows up when it counts. See, love, friendship, and loyalty, these things are not just spoken. They are proven. You can't say you love someone and never show up for them. You can't say you care but never check in. You can't say they matter to you yet never take a moment to really listen, to really be there, to really show them that they are important to you. Some people are waiting not for grand gestures, not for extravagant displays of love, but for the little things that show them they're not alone. They want to see you make time for them, even when life is busy. They want to see you notice when something is off, even when they don't say anything. They want to see that they don't always have to be the one reaching out first. Because let me tell you, people get tired of being the only one who tries, tired of being the only one who checks in, tired of wondering if they'd ever hear from you if they stop calling, stop texting, stop making all the effort. Effort isn't about doing the most, it's about doing enough to make someone feel seen, appreciated, and valued. It's about remembering the little things, the things they don't even think you notice. It's about checking in without being asked. It's about making time for them without being reminded. It's about letting them know, hey, you're important to me and I don't take you for granted. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to feel like an option. Nobody wants to feel like they're the one putting in work to keep a relationship alive. People want to feel like they matter without having to beg for it. They want to feel like they're worth your time, your attention, your presence. Because nothing hurts more than realizing you've been making someone a priority while they've been treating you like an afterthought. And here's the truth. People don't always say what they need. They won't always tell you, hey, I need you to put in more effort. Instead, they'll just start pulling back. They'll stop reaching out. They'll stop checking in. They'll start matching your energy, not because they want to, but because they're tired of feeling like they're the only one who cares. Some people are waiting for you to notice that the connection is fading. They're waiting for you to prove that they're worth fighting for. They're waiting for you to make them feel like they don't always have to be the one keeping things together. And if you don't, if you keep taking their presence for granted, one day you'll look around and they'll be gone. Not because they stopped caring, but because they finally realized you never did. Distance has a way of revealing the truth about people. It can either bring two hearts closer together or show you that they were never really connected in the first place. See, when someone is right in front of you, when you're used to seeing them, talking to them, spending time with them, love can feel easy. But when distance comes into the picture, whether it's physical space, emotional distance, or just life pulling people in different directions, that's when you find out what love is really made of. Because love isn't just about presence. It's not just about being there when it's convenient. It's about whether the bond can survive even when things aren't easy. Can they still hold on to you when life gets busy? Can they still make the effort when you're miles apart? Can they still show you that you matter even when the daily routines that kept you close are no longer there? See, some people think that if they're not around, they'll be forgotten. They fear that if they don't constantly remind someone of their presence, they'll just fade into the background. But real love doesn't work like that. Real love doesn't need constant validation. It just is. It's the kind of love that doesn't disappear just because someone isn't right in front of you. It doesn't weaken just because time and space get in the way. If anything, real love proves itself in distance. Because here's what happens. When distance steps in, effort becomes the loudest voice. You start to see who actually cares. You start to notice who checks in, who makes time, who still tries, even when it would be easier to let go. Distance removes the distractions, the convenience, the easy moments, and leaves you with just one thing, intention. If they really love you, they'll show up in ways that don't require being physically present. They'll call, they'll check in, they'll find small ways to remind you that you still matter no matter how far apart you are. But distance also exposes something else. It shows you who was only there for the moment, not for the long haul. It reveals the people who only loved you when it was easy, when it was convenient, when it fit into their schedule. Because the truth is, if someone can go days, weeks, months without even wondering how you are, without even trying to keep the connection alive, then that tells you everything you need to know. And let's be honest, distance is hard. It tests patience. It tests trust. It brings doubts. It makes you wonder if the bond is still strong, if the love is still there. But that's the thing about real love. It endures. It doesn't fade just because there's space between you. It doesn't disappear just because you don't see each other every day. If anything, real love fights harder. It values what's important. It holds on even when letting go seems easier. Distance is a test, and not everyone passes it. But the ones who do, those are the ones you know are worth keeping. At the end of the day, love isn't just about words. It's about effort, presence, and understanding. It's about recognizing that real love doesn't always come in loud, obvious ways. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's distant. Sometimes it's hidden behind walls built from pain, hesitation, or past heartbreak. But real love is always there, even when you don't see it the way you expect. People love in different ways. Some express it openly, while others protect themselves out of fear of getting hurt again. Some wait for you to notice them, to make an effort, to prove that they truly matter. And sometimes love is tested by distance, by silence, by time apart. But the real kind, it endures, it stays. It doesn't fade just because life gets in the way. That's why you have to pay attention, to see the love that isn't always spoken, to recognize the people who may not say much but show up in ways that matter, to give love without expecting it to always look a certain way. Because when you truly understand love, when you stop looking for it only in grand gestures and perfect words, you start to see that it has been around you all along, waiting for you to notice, waiting for you to appreciate it, waiting for you to value it before it's too late. A lot of people think that if someone isn't constantly calling, texting, or checking in, they must not care. But let me tell you something. Silence doesn't always mean a lack of love. In fact, sometimes silence comes from the deepest kind of love, the kind that doesn't need to be loud to be real. See, we live in a world where people expect instant responses, constant attention, and nonstop validation. If someone doesn't reply fast enough, we start overthinking. If they don't check in every day, we assume they've lost interest. But love doesn't always work like that. Some people love in ways that aren't obvious. Some people care so much that they step back, not because they don't want to be there, but because they don't know how to show it the way you expect. Think about the strongest relationships in your life. The people who truly care about you may not always be the ones blowing up your phone, but they're the ones who will be there when it matters. They may not always be talking, but they're always listening. They may not always be present in the way you want, but they're always watching, always thinking about you, always wishing you well. Even from a distance, some folks stay silent because they don't know what to say. They don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to make things worse. They love you too much to risk hurting you with words that might not come out right. So instead of speaking, they choose silence, hoping their actions will show what words cannot. And then there are the people who care so deeply that they step back to give you space to grow. They don't want to smother you. They don't want to overwhelm you. They believe in letting you figure things out, trusting that you'll come to them when you're ready. That kind of love takes patience. It takes understanding. It takes the kind of strength that doesn't demand attention but remains steady in the background. Sometimes silence is a test to see if you'll reach out, a test to see if you'll notice their absence. Some people pull away not because they don't care, but because they want to see if you care enough to notice they're gone. They want to know if you'll make the effort they've been making for so long. And then there are the people who are fighting battles you don't even know about. They go silent, not because they don't love you, but because they're struggling within themselves. They're dealing with pain, stress, or situations they don't know how to talk about. And instead of burdening you with their struggles, they carry them alone, hoping you'll understand that their silence is not rejection. It's just them trying to get through something. We assume that if someone cares, they'll always be there in the way we want them to be. But love doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Some people love loudly and some love quietly. Some people love through words and some love through action. Some people show up every day and some people show up only when it truly matters. That's why you can't judge love by how much noise it makes. You can't assume someone doesn't care just because they're not constantly in your face. Some of the deepest love is silent. Some of the strongest bonds don't need words. And some of the most loyal people are the ones you don't hear from every day, but when you need them, they show up without hesitation. A lot of people miss out on real love because they expect it to look a certain way. They think love is all about big words, grand gestures, and constant attention. They want love to fit into a perfect little box wrapped up just the way they imagine it. But let me tell you something, love don't work like that. Love shows up in different ways. See, some people think that if someone loves them, they should always be calling, always texting, always saying, I love you. And while some folks do express love that way, that's not the only way love speaks. Some people don't say I love you every day, but they show it in 100 other ways. They show it by making sure you eat. They show it by checking if you got home safe. They show it by paying attention to the things you don't even realize matter. Love can be loud, but it can also be quiet. Some people love through words, but others love through action. Some people love by being affectionate, and some love by showing up when it counts. Some folks will flood your phone with sweet messages, and others will fix something in your house without saying a word, because that's their way of caring. Think about the people in your life. Some love you by always telling you how proud they are, while others love you by pushing you to be better. Some show love by giving you space when you need it, and some show love by standing beside you even when you push them away. Some love you by protecting you even when you don't realize you need protection. You ever had somebody in your life who didn't say much, but you always knew they had your back? That's love. You ever had someone who didn't flood you with compliments, but they never let you fall? That's love. You ever had a person who didn't check in every single day, but when you were down, they were the first one there? That's love. The problem is, too many people don't recognize love unless it looks the way they want it to. If love isn't loud, they assume it's not real. If someone isn't showing love the way they expect, they think they don't care. But just because love doesn't look how you imagined it, doesn't mean it's not there. Some of the most powerful love is the kind that isn't flashy, it's steady, it's constant. It's always there even when you're not paying attention. And let's talk about the people who love from a distance. Some folks care so much about you that they step back, not because they don't love you, but because they don't want to overwhelm you. They don't want to interfere with your growth. They don't want to be a distraction in your journey. I still love even if it's not in your face all the time. See, love isn't about what's convenient. It's not always about what's comfortable. It's about what's real. And real love knows when to hold on and when to let go. It knows when to push you and when to give you space. It knows when to speak and when to stay silent. That's why you have to stop looking for love in only one form. You have to stop measuring love by the volume of someone's words or the frequency of their attention. Because the truth is, love is bigger than that. It's not just one thing. It's not just one way. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is protective. Love is sacrificial. Love is a million little things that you might not even notice until one day you look back and realize that the people who loved you the most were the ones who showed it in ways you never expected.